ChatGPT said, "The ocean doesn't negotiate, it simply responds." At 0642 on a Tuesday morning, 2 miles off a Venezuelan patrol line, the Caribbean answered in a way no one aboard the Guapiro expected. 30 feet of water expelled into the air. Salt spray turned the horizon into a bruise, and 7,800 tons of black American steel broke the surface like something pulled up by the sea itself. You don't stumble across a Virginia-class fast attack submarine. You encounter it because it wants to be encountered, not by accident, but by design. And that's the first rule here. The sea is an environment. Submarines are platforms that exploit it. When one surfaces close enough for a patrol ship's binoculars to pick out rivets, it has a purpose beyond navigation. It has a message. This script is a tactical breakdown. It's a scene-by-scene look at what happened, how it had unfolded from sensor to signal, and why a single surfacing can be the most efficient piece of statecraft in modern naval diplomacy. They started the watch like any other. Routine. Comfortable. The Guapiro steamed at about 14 knots, its crew focusing on the everyday, checking AIS returns, scanning for small contacts, monitoring fishing traffic, and the small-time smugglers that run these routes. Her systems are fit for coastal patrol, radar for surface contacts, electro-optical sensors for identification, and a sonar suite tuned to short-range detection. She's fast enough for the bum and crewed by professionals trained in doctrine built on a different era, Soviet-derived tactics where mass and reaction time often mattered more than stealth. Then the anomaly. On the sonar display, the contact appeared as a sudden displacement at bearing 086. Not a gradual contact that grows as a merchant approaches. Not a Doppler-shifted echo slowly creeping up the waterfall of range. It was a vertical vector, large, rapid, and ascending at a profile inconsistent with any surface or subsurface civilian craft. The operator's console, usually a field of reassuring green, flashed red. Coffee hit the deck. The voice over the comm was clipped. Precise. Displacement at 086. Large contact. Rapid ascent. Those are watchwords that trigger protocol. In naval operations, the first minute matters more than 100 rounds of firing drills. The captain declared general quarters. That command takes a ship from routine to combat posture in seconds. Generators on, watertight doors sealed, gunners to stations, CIC, Combat Information Center, hard at work logging contacts and plotting responses. What rose was not a merchant or a whale. It was a Virginia-class submarine. The stealth, sensors, and payload quality that redefined undersea dominance in the post-Cold War fleet. Quiet as a shadow, lethal as designed, nuclear propulsion, advanced acoustic dampening, low observable geometry. This is a platform optimized to observe and to project power at ranges where the observed can be ignorant until the moment of revelation. When it surfaced, it did so with control. No frantic blow of ballast tanks, no emergency pop-up. It was deliberate. The sail showed first, a command sail like a black monolith cutting the water. Then hull. Water streamed off its skin in sheets. The vessel presented itself, not in panic, but in posture. What does posture mean at sea? It's geometry, it's bearing, it's the angle you hold relative to another platform. At 1.9 nautical miles, there's no immediate kinetic engagement, but there is observation, and observation is data. A submarine that breaks surface near a foreign patrol vessel is exposing itself so the other side can see it. That exposure is deliberate. It transmits a packet of intent, presence, capability, reach. The Guapiro did everything by the book. Maintain recording, no transmissions unless required, weapons cold. The captain's orders were precise because today the evidence record mattered more than impulse. Modern engagements are documented from the first moment. Video, acoustic logs, EW, electronic warfare, captures. All of it becomes the gospel if things go wrong. Legal, diplomatic, intelligence. These are as much tools of statecraft as gunnery. Below deck on the American submarine, the mission systems were executing a workflow. Passive acoustic collection, visual sweeps, ELENT gathering, and target profiling. Passive sonar listens. Active sonar pings escalate. Emissions control, MCONE, is a doctrine in itself. Minimize your footprint to preserve tactical advantage. The sub's operators were collecting signatures: hull shape, acoustic profile, radar cross-section when surfaced, radar emissions from the Guapiro, reaction times of the Venezuelan crew, angles of maneuver, voice cadence over comms. Every parameter was logged and time-stamped. For a boat that can stay submerged for months and operate under the ocean's acoustic cloak, a 10-minute surface window near an adversary is an intelligence harvest. Then came the ping. Not a shot across the bow, not a torpedo prelude. A single, clean sonar pulse. In naval terms, an active ping is escalation. In intelligence terms, it's a reminder. We control the frequency spectrum here. That ping is a calibrated signal. It says, "We're here. Note us." The Guapiro's sonar men heard it and understood the theater of truth. The captain's response was cautious, controlled. Weapons remain inactive. We do not escalate. That restraint is a tactical decision, not moral weakness. It preserves options and prevents miscalculation. The United States strategy for such encounters is layered. Surface assets, air, and undersea platforms create overlapping surveillance. A Virginia-class boat brings the undersea layer into a theater where surface forces are accustomed to being the primary watchman. Submarines operate in 3 kinetic phases: detect, track, and only if necessary, engage. But they offer far more value in detect and track for long-term picture building. That morning, the subsurface profile served the detect role by affording visual confirmation to complement acoustic logs and alent. Naval signaling is subtle. 10 degrees of turn is a language. The sub rolled 10 degrees of port. In most contexts, that's insignificant. In a seascape where intent is communicated through limited channels, it read as a clause in a sentence. Pointing the bow or aligning the sail can project intent, investigatory, threatening, or merely illustrative of surveillance capacity. The Guapiro matched the angle. This micro-diplomacy was a demonstration. We see you, and we are not ceding our observation. Analysis of this geometry goes deeper. The CPA, closest point of approach, was a critical metric. At around 1.0 nautical mile CPA, risk thresholds are crossed. Weapons envelopes, line of sight, sensor overlap, and legal interpretations all pivot on CPA. Maintaining separation within a deliberate band tells both sides the engagement is controlled. It's a test of nerve and technical competence. Neither side wanted the exchange to escalate to comment or legal crisis, but each wanted data on the other's reaction thresholds. And that's the point of gray zone operations. Provoke choices that create information. Make the adversary react, and you collect digital fingerprints, response times, command structure, engagement thresholds. This type of operation is asymmetric. It leverages control of a domain, here, the undersea, to create pressure without crossing the threshold of open conflict. When the Virginia-class boat slipped its sail and began to sink, it did so like a curtain falling on a scene. No flashing lights, no radio hail. 20 seconds later, the radar trace faded. Sonar returned to blue. The buoyant world of the surface carried on, but the Guapiro's bridge crew had a new set of coordinates bookmarked in memory and in log files. "Mark last known position," the captain ordered. "Save all logs." Submerged again, 200 feet below, the American boat returned to its mission profile. On board, the workflow continued. Acoustic traces archived, video cataloged, radar emissions recorded, EW logs packaged, and an automated narrowband transmission hummed a copy back to Southern Command. That packet contained everything: how the Guapiro had maneuvered, what systems it had used, the exact times of commands, the cadence of their voices, and the minute geometry of their maneuvers. For analysts in a distant operations center, this was gold. So why does this matter? Because in a contested maritime environment like the Caribbean, presence is a currency of power. The U.S. frames these operations as enforcement of freedom of navigation and interdiction of criminal networks. Venezuela frames them as sovereignty infringements. Between these narratives live a narrower operational truth. Control is exercised through persistent, precise, deniable pressure. You don't need to sink ships to be dominant. You need to be able to operate where others cannot detect you and then reveal yourself in a calibrated way to prove that capability. Virginia-class subs are built with that calculus. Their quieting measures, pump jet propulsion on later variants, anechoic coatings, vibration dampers, and advanced sound isolation, reduce their acoustic signature into the oceanic noise floor. They carry sophisticated MASENT and ELINT suites that can triangulate emissions, decode radar patterns, and identify radar types and radar modes. The sub's presence, then, is a sensor node that can observe surface, air, and electronic channels while staying below thresholds most coastal fleets cannot match. For Venezuela, the implications are immediate and sobering. Coastal surveillance systems, radar chains, acoustic arrays, patrol craft, have designed envelopes dependent on assumptions about likely threats. Small boat smuggling and illicit fishing dictate a different posture than detecting a nuclear-powered fast-attack submarine operating under the thermocline. The thermocline, that layer where seawater density changes with depth, is a traditional hiding place for submarines. A ship with modest sonar technology struggles in such environments. The Guapiro's crew realized in those 10 minutes that detection capability had limits they had not tested against a modern undersea adversary. Face-saving and doctrine then guide commanders. The Guapiro's captain kept the watch calm, logged everything, and followed the protocols. Do not escalate unless certain of hostile intent. That decision preserves lives and avoids the political crisis that follows an accidentally triggered chain of events. Navies train for split-second decisions, but national policy shapes those seconds. When a captain is faced with a $3 billion sub with a clear intelligence intent 2 miles away, his choices are part tactical and part political. This is coercion by presence. It's precise. It's legal ambiguity married to operational superiority. It's a textbook example of how modern states compete below the threshold of open war. They use silent platforms, calibrated visibility, and tight rules of engagement to force an adversary into reactive behavior. Each reaction becomes input to a machine of policy, analysts in offices that can't be on the bridge, but can read every timestamp back home. Let's run a tactical what-if from multiple perspectives. If you are the patrol captain, hold. You demonstrate sovereignty and confidence, but you risk miscalculation. A misinterpreted maneuver could escalate. Disengage politely. You preserve your crew and reduce domestic political fallout from a later embarrassment, but you concede presence and risk being perceived as weak. Call for higher-level orders. You buy time but reveal a measured chain of command latency that adversaries can log and exploit in future engagements. If you are the submarine commander, surface to signal presence, then dive and collect data. You maximize intelligence gain and minimize escalation. Stay submerged in shadow. You gather longer-term data, but miss the chance to project immediate presence. Escalate with aggressive maneuvering. You force an incident and risk unwanted kinetic escalation and diplomatic blowback. The U.S. option chosen in this scenario was minimalist but effective. Surface, be seen, collect, leave. No fire, no protest, proof. There's also the legal technical angle. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, warships have broad freedom of navigation on the high seas and in exclusive economic zones for certain activities, although coastal states can assert certain rights and declarations. Freedom of navigation operations, FONOPs, are often not about law enforcement. They're about norms. A submarine surfacing within international waters but near a coastal claim is therefore a message about where naval actors consider the enforcement line to be. But operations are not purely legal. They are human systems. Watch officers, sonar technicians, bridge teams, commanders, each with training and stress responses. This is why modern naval doctrine emphasizes not only sensors, but SOPs, standard operating procedures, and decision rails. If a watch officer documents a contact and the captain follows established